Demarcus Cousins is thought of by many as the best center in today's NBA, as this previous season he put up 27 points, 11.5 rebounds. Boogie's a beast, but unfortunately, as talented as Demarcus is, Sacramento has not seen many W's over the past few seasons, and it's because of a few things. Demarcus himself is not perfect when it comes to his personality, but the Kings have not done themselves any favors when it comes to questionable staff hires and weird draft picks. Now, I will say, before we really dive into this, I do like where the Sacramento Kings are at the moment. Darren Collison is a very well-rounded point guard, and Willie Cauley-Stein seems like he has all the potential to be a world-class NBA defensive player. And I personally feel that Ben McLemore still has a chance to make an impact in the NBA, and I also really like the hiring of Dave Joerger as the new head coach, someone who can bring in a nice culture to Sacramento. But it was a very rocky road to get here, so let's dive into how the Kings have wasted DeMarcus Cousins' talent. Let's take you to the 2010-2011 season, where DeMarcus Cousins proves early on that he is a post presence for Sacramento, someone who they can give the ball to down low, and some successful things can happen. Besides that, the rest of his team was pretty much Tyreke Evans, who, as we will see, the Kings had no frickin' idea how to use. I mean, their point guard was Bino Udrih, so they definitely needed some help on the perimeter, and they wanted to correct that in the NBA draft by initially drafting Bismack Biyombo, but then trading him for their actual takeaway, Jimmer Fredette, because they believed that Jimmer could be the perimeter player as well as scorer that they needed. Now, unfortunately, Jimmer was unable to really make it as a ball handler in the NBA, and his shooting wasn't enough to make up for that. But you know the interesting thing, looking back on it now, there were some better options the Kings could have went with this early in the draft. For one, they could have selected Kemba Walker, who, as we know, turned out to be a much better playmaker and scorer than Jimmer Fredette. Just imagine Kemba and DeMarcus Cousins in pick and rolls. The defense would actually have to pay attention to Kemba because he's a quality scorer, opening up more lanes for Boogie. There also was Brandon Knight, who they could have selected as well. And Brandon would have been perfect playing off of DeMarcus. I mean, you try to double-team Boogie, he's going to knock down that jumper. They also could have drafted Klay freaking Thompson. And it makes sense, they drafted Jimmer for his shooting. You could have drafted the guy who was like 7 inches taller. I mean, how are you going to defend this? If Boogie's killing you down low, Klay's going to do it outside. So the Jimmer Fredette experiment, well, it just didn't really work. As for the 2011-2012 season, DeMarcus once again elevating himself, showing himself to be a long-term piece. Defensively, the team was just trash, though. And so in the draft, they looked to up their physicality and their athleticism, perhaps their defense as well, with Thomas Robinson. As we know, Thomas Robinson didn't really work out for him either. They wanted him to be an athlete and a rebounder. It just didn't happen. The guy's bounced around the NBA quite a few times at this point. You know who they could have selected? Well, there was Damian Lillard, and if you can imagine video game Dame, as well as Boogie Cousins doing pick and rolls and playing off of each other, that would have been pretty damn tough to deal with for a lot of NBA teams. Now, you can give them a little teeny bit of flack, maybe because Isaiah Thomas was beginning to come on, but I mean, they also could have drafted Harrison Barnes. Well, they were looking to improve defensively, and Robinson wasn't able to do that. Harrison Barnes was known as a defender when he went into the NBA. So now let me tell you about the Kings' 2012-2013 season. It's going to sound pretty similar. Boogie, once again, being a beast down low. And the rest of the team, I mean, Isaiah Thomas hadn't really taken off yet. Tyreke Evans' position had been changed like 3 times up to this point. And there was pretty much no defensive players in sight. So Sacramento crapped the bed, as we'd expect. So Boogie's on an island. He needs some sort of help. And Sacramento in the 2013 draft looked to address their shooting guard problems with Ben McLemore out of Kansas. And as we know, Ben McLemore up to this point has not really taken off in the NBA. You want to know someone they could have selected? CJ McCollum, who is a shooting guard who fits the bill, same type of player as McLemore. Imagine McCollum being a big-time scorer for Sacramento, and he definitely would have made DeMarcus Cousins' day easier, so another strikeout in the draft. Now on to the 2013-14 season, Rudy Gay was a big addition. He's not going to do anything for you on defense, nor is Isaiah Thomas, even if he had an offensive outburst. And so, while our star of the hour elevated his game, the team itself could not. But the head coach of that season was Mike Malone, and this is probably Sacramento's worst offense. Boogie and Mike Malone actually had a really good relationship. He was the first head coach who could crack Demarcus's shell. And so, while 2013-14 wasn't the best, 2014-15, the first month, the Kings were actually 9-5, and they were successful. And it was a very exciting month in Sacramento, the first one in a while. But unfortunately, Boogie suffered an injury, he missed some time, and Sacramento struggled. And the front office viewed this as an opportunity to just fire Mike Malone. Fire the one dude who has ever actually gotten to Boogie and had the team playing winning basketball. The hell's wrong with y'all, dude? So, like I said, probably the worst thing they've ever done. Then there was the Ty Corbin experiment, which was a disaster. And then we got to see the George Karl, Demarcus Cousins drama for a year and a half. And I am intrigued by their most recent hire of Dave Yeager, as I said before. But it's clear the Sacramento Kings have definitely not helped themselves on the road to surrounding Demarcus Cousins with some talent. Hopefully they can start turning this thing around.